one additional thing that is articulated and what I've shared with the DIE triad is to add more diversity to your stack. And one of the ways to do that is as crazy as not using a library, but having an AI system actually recreate the library for you in its own variation of it.
The Adversarial Podcast. Why you gotta be so adversarial? It's time to get adversarial.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Adversarial Podcast. It's first recording after RSA when we got to hang out in person. And we got to record one live there that will hopefully be coming out pretty soon. But otherwise, I think we have a ton of new news since RSA. No shortage of topics here. But good to see you guys. How you doing, Sunil?
It's going well. Like RSA seems like so last year now.
Yeah, totally. How about you, Mario? You recover?
Yeah, I recovered. We went for a vacation, for Easter vacation with the family. Went to Mexico City. Highly recommend it. Great food.
Oh, yeah.
Did some tours of the pyramids outside the city. And I'm here. I'm happy to report that I had grilled crickets for lunch.
Nice.
Yes. And,
Are you a fan?
You didn't need a bodyguard, did you?
No. I think anything with lime and salt and cilantro, and you put it on top of it, it'll taste good.
Tastes great.
Yeah, right.
Well, welcome back. Good to have you guys together, and it'll be fun timing this thing with the Cloudflare podcast drop. But no worries, we have a lot of other stuff to talk about for sure. So I think that the biggest thing that has been popping over the last 10 days or so has been Mythos. So I'll give my recap of the situation because I was just lecturing mere moments ago, and I brought this up as an example. But Anthropic, in working with and kind of evaluating their latest model, Mythos, found that it's really good at detecting vulnerabilities when pointed at source code. And in particular, it's pretty cool because they've got an A/B test against society at large. So if you pointed at a 20-year-old code base that everybody's been hammering at and inspecting, and you find stuff, then we're doing better than people were. And that's the case. So much so that they decided to restrict this and say, if we release this model into the wild right now, we can tell you that a bunch of adversaries are going to be popping all kinds of things because of just what we found alone running it. So they created this project Glasswing, invited some of the owners of some of the closed source software like Microsoft and a lot of the major companies who stand to benefit or be hurt from all this, like Cisco, and the operating system, browser vendors, and so on. And the idea is a few things. One, they're giving them a heads up so they can get ahead and actually patch some specific things that they know are going to come out and can be reproduced by anyone using the model. And then also to just kind of gear up for the new generation and what it's going to be like when people are able to find things this quickly. I have my own thoughts about how this is going to manifest and how it's going to look. But let's get right into it. Are you guys, are you hearing about this a lot? Do you think it's going to be the biggest news over the last 12 months?
Well, if you're on LinkedIn and you're even like ancillarily involved in security, you'll hear. I'm sure you have heard about it. I've had friends who are completely outside of security talking about this. So certainly, if you're in security, you probably have heard about this as well. So a couple of things to baseline. First is that its ability to find Mythos' ability to find vulnerabilities. There have been a number of other studies done to determine is Mythos, does it have any extra special capability above and beyond some of the models that have already been released, including open weight models that are smaller. And so far, it seems like the conclusion from one of the companies, I think it was called ISLE, was that the capabilities are jagged, meaning that the different findings were discoverable easily by some models and not so easily discoverable by Anthropic models. Okay, so it's jagged in terms of there's not one model that can find them all, so to speak. But the thing with Glasswing specifically So the point of that was to say that the capability to find vulnerabilities have been actually presumably around for a while. But what was really useful about this particular announcement is just that it simply got a huge amount of boardroom attention. And so I think the question or the opportunity for the practitioner side is, how do we leverage the fact that it's gone into the consciousness of so many people? How do we leverage that opportunity to make a significant change in how we do security, especially when it comes to patching, that allows us to close the gap between vulnerability discovery, exploit development, the patch becoming available, or rather, a vulnerability being discovered, a patch becoming available, the attackers coming up with an exploit based on that patch, and us patching in a timely time frame. So we need to be able to get to a point where patching is going to have to become much more automated. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to try to push that sort of opportunity as much as possible. There's still going to be a ton of things that cannot be patched, no question about that. But where we can actually patch things at a faster cadence, this is really the clarion call to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. From my perspective, so I had the same thing. I had a friend who was an analyst at UBS covering cyber stocks for a long time, and he pinged me about it too. And from that perspective, meaning someone who's technologically literate but doesn't necessarily work in cybersecurity, I want to contrast this or compare and contrast it with quantum, because it's kind of like what's the big next thing that's going to happen. And I feel like if there's a widely available quantum computing capability that can crack anything that is at last year's encryption standards in a reasonable amount of time, meaning you give it a piece of AES block of data, and now, unlike in the past, in an hour, it's going to be able to decrypt that. That's the kind of the D-Day everybody's really worried about. And if that happened, when that happens, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. I think it's overrated, honestly. I think everybody be running around, be spending money, buying things, and wasting time. But the adversaries won't have anything to do with that. This, on the other hand, when 10,000 libraries, all the browsers, et cetera, when we drop 500 to 1,000 widely externally accessible log4j type CVEs that are poppable right now at organizations, it will be extraordinarily impactful. It'll be the log4j, times 50, 500.
Yeah, so we see it as a tsunami of CVSS 9.8 and higher type of vulnerabilities that people need to have all hands on deck for, but all happening within a very short period of time, and this being just the first of potentially many more to come. And so if we're not prepared for that, then most people are just going to get we know we're going to be drowned, and that even if with a lot of preparation, we need to also prepare for some successful exploitation of these vulnerabilities. And because of that, we need to then make sure that we've hardened our environments ahead of that as well. So anyway, but the point is, this is nothing new here. There's no new. Sorry, nothing I'm saying is new per se in terms of the way that we should be preparing, but we should use the opportunity because it's gotten boardroom attention to say, hey, this is actually different because the number of vulnerabilities that we're going to have to deal with is going to be potentially an order of magnitude higher.
Totally.
2, we may have multiple simultaneous incidents happening, and it's going to completely burn everyone out. We're going to be fighting so many fires all at once that our capacity to handle this is going to be quite limited. And so it's not to say that we're going to be breached, but to say, look, we're all going to be facing this sort of crisis at the same time. Let's get prepared, but also use this opportunity to ask for more resources if necessary, and to make some hard business decisions in terms of releasing some of the constraints that we have and being able to move forward with some of these patches.
Totally. I think, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but this is a topic that, Sunil, Jerry, we have been talking about, for over a year now about some of these dense code dense things that we see out there. I mean, Sunil talks about it all the time, and they probably have a lot of vulnerabilities in there, and that these models are just going to get better at finding it. Okay, so what's new? I have received a significant amount of emails from a number of VCs that have a security portfolio, and they want to, one of the things they want, and the overall message from these VCs is, yes, but how do you fix it? Right? It's one of the things. And two, how do you prioritize? And two, how do you proactively fix it? So without getting into more details, I think this provides an opportunity, especially as Sunil has mentioned, the board has gotten the attention of the board. Even Jerry's gardener asked him, "Hey, what do you think of this new thing going on here?" Right? So when the zeitgeist goes outside of just the security zeitgeist just goes outside of that center, and it becomes an opportunity, as Sunil is saying. Okay, so what does that mean? We need to start looking at players who are going to reduce the unnecessary libraries and bloated operating systems or whatever we're using, Kubernetes, whatever out there. We need to find partners. And look, this is a company I have invested in, and I think Sunil might have invested as well, but I'm also going to mention the more established competitor, folks like ChainGuard or Echo. And Echo, I'm an investor, so my hands are not clean. But really, I'm having this conversation. I was having this conversation with one of my leaders, engineering leaders, 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about, look, we need to even reduce the number of libraries that we have in our Kubernetes nodes, because it's just going to get harder and harder to patch or replace. So this is an opportunity to team up with companies who, maybe they're using AI, maybe they're not using AI, but they're doing more of the trimming, removing unnecessary libraries that you don't need, and focusing on that. So you don't have to react constantly to all the news.
Yeah. I think you're not wrong on that. This thing brings up a lot to me. For one, I don't think the way most people run security is healthy and sustainable. And I think this will drive it to a head. So, for example, first of all, if a big CVE comes out in something that's not super assailable, like Adobe PDF, who cares? And it won't matter. But the nuance between everybody panics, but nobody actually gets exploited, and everybody panics and everybody's getting exploited, it's very fine. People are willing to spend all the money either way. But here, people can actually get popped. So Log4j, you had a lot of exploit going on to draw a contrast with that. At the time that broke, people had tens of thousands of instances of vulnerable Log4j versions in large enterprises. And they panicked equally over all of them and academically. And they scanned hard drives for jar files that weren't even being used and beat their chest about what a big deal it was. And I was at an organization that had thousands, maybe tens of thousands, but at least thousands of instances of it too. Yeah. But we knew that we had 21 that mattered. 21, that's it, And if we had just done what most people are doing, we would just be, not only would we be slowing down production and browbeating people and sidelining software engineering about patching dumb things that don't matter and deleting jar files that weren't being used and all that kind of crap, but also we wouldn't have gotten to those 21 with any urgency. They might have come at the end of the 3-week, everyone has to work 24 hours a day and perform fake heroics. And instead, and it was something like 21 were externally exploitable, and 8 of them didn't have egress protection. So even when they were popped, most of them got killed anyway. So we could have done nothing and been fine except for 8.
Let me ask you a question on that, Jerry.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned Log4j. Is it fair, please, you, Sunil and Jerry, keep me honest. is it fair to say that, Heartbleed, on the other hand, was a significant vulnerability and potentially exploitable, very exploitable? Do we agree? Compared to Log4j, I think Heartbleed, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it was scary as all hell. Do we agree with that?
I don't think so. I mean, look,
Heartbleed
none of us remember
versus
anything.
Log4j.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, for all the CISOs out there listening, none of us ever remember all this crap and the details of it. And the moment that you come into the office, don't pretend you know everything about Heartbleed, right? So I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to tell right now with a 65% chance of Sunil telling me, Jerry, you're totally wrong on this. But this is what I think of on that. If I remember right with Heartbleed, you could connect to this TLS version daemon, like HTTPS or other type of listeners.
Yeah.
And if you hit it with the right pattern, it would give you some of what was in memory, decrypted. And
it was an attack on OpenSSL, if I still remember it correctly.
Yeah, which would be bundled in
OpenSSL
in like
libraries,
not
it was TLS, but OpenSSL libraries.
Yeah, but it depended on what was in memory at the time. It was like random little snippets. They may or not have been usable. Ideally, you get like credentials, right? That was the golden thing and credentials would have to be being processed and submitted, and not just comparing a hash or whatever. Put another way, I don't remember, and this is where you guys are going to call me out. I'm going to sound like an idiot. I don't remember any major breaches, issues, problems due to Heartbleed. Go.
Sunil, please opine on it.
Well,
I want to make a
why
prediction
Heartbleed, I think, resonates in my mind as the first vulnerability with an icon or with a logo.
No.
And it was a good logo.
So how bad was Heartbleed? I mean, exactly.
I thought Heartbleed
well, no,
was
it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad in terms of the
Why?
response that was required. I don't know. I don't have enough data to be able to say who actually got popped or compromised or lost something significant as a result of that. But it was certainly one of the large scale, everyone needs to fix this as quickly as possible type of scenario. Log4j of course, was a similar one. We really dodged the bullet with XZ, if you remember that supply chain attack that was caught, fortunately, within a relatively timely manner. But I just imagine that we're going to have so the issue here is the strategy that Jerry you're talking about is absolutely something that we still need to apply to prioritize which ones to fix. But now imagine not just 8, but 80 or 800.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So now you still it's highly prioritized, yes. But now we got to have do we have capacity to fix 10 times, 100 times that number? And the answer is no. We still won't have that capacity.
So I will say this, and I'm not trying to be an alarmist. So I wanted to make a differentiation between a Log4j, which honestly, God bless your soul, I'm sorry you had to deal with it, but a lot of it was just noise and fluff. And I mean,
it also happened to be during Christmas too, by the way.
Yeah. But I thought Heartbleed was a bigger issue. I believe, just like maybe what Sunil's saying, that it's not just onesies or twosies. You're just going to get this multiplied. They're going to go after some of these well-known, if they haven't already, well-known, well-used, heavily used open source libraries that have not been maintained in a long time. And I could see that happening more and more potentially. But overall, I think there's just going to be more and more of these.
Yeah, and just to give context, Glasswing, it was an effort. Glasswing identified 12.
Can you give us a background, Sunil? Maybe some people in the audience.
Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar with Glasswing, Anthropic identified 12 charter companies to be part of Project Glasswing. They extended it to 40 additional companies beyond that, or 40 different entities beyond that, to have early access to Mythos so that they can do whatever scans. I think there's a number of questions I have in terms of the transparency around the selection process, but the end result of it will be, imagine now in 90 days, which is roughly the time frame that they gave this early access to, just the number of disclosures that may come as a result of them pointing tools like Mythos at their code. So what we'll end up with is not just the discovery of a vulnerability in a particular package or piece of software, but all the downstream software that it will rely upon as well. So there's just going to be a very, very large number of patches that need to be applied And I'm talking after you've already done all the filtering of what's exposed and what's critical and all that kind of stuff. We're still going to have a fairly significant number that we should just be prepared for. I think it would be great if the answer was that it didn't produce that quantity, but why lose an opportunity like this one to get as prepared as possible?
And let me give you just an example of noise versus actual stuff and how it's being viewed by the organization. So we just had this event about 3-4 weeks ago when a non-engineer person in our company, I'm not going to share names, too small, but a non-engineer posted vulnerabilities of light LLM. Do you guys remember that? Light LLM? Yeah. And posted it on the engineering channel. Our engineering channel. This is internal. And says, look in this, guys, this is dangerous. We exposed and blah, blah, blah. And he was just trying to react to the news. Mm-hmm. Man, the engineers were so freaking upset. They're like, what the fudge is this? Because it's creating noise. It's creating unnecessary noise, which you should easily done says, okay, let me go take a look at our branch, see what we're using, what open source tools. If I really wanted to know what the heck is in our environment, there are tools that we use. I mean, I'll throw Orca because we do use Orca as well. And we give access to a lot of folks, not just engineering, but we give them access to go look at this stuff. What I'm trying to convey to you, everybody here, is I think I want to echo what Jerry and maybe Sunil is saying is we're going to get more and more of these vulnerabilities that are nothing burger, but they're going to overwhelm the system and people are going to get upset about it because it's going to come faster, much faster.
Oh, actually, I'm not. We'll certainly get nothing burger type of vulnerabilities, but that's.
I'm not saying light LLM is nothing burger.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I'm referring to the ones that are actually real burger, where the meat's actually there. It's a problem that's going to be compounded just by the fact that there is going to be a lot of nothing burgers too. So if you don't have a great way to have mechanisms to prioritize and to know which ones are actually exposed, if you don't have egress filtering, if you don't have all these other sort of things,
you don't.
Yeah, then it's going to be really tough.
I guess like my take on this is that so we're going to have like this reaction that we've had to CVEs dropping. Now we're going to say we have to scale that by 10x or 100x, the capability to react to it. And like where you started with it, Sunil, was that there's ways to be more efficient and be able to react to that. And it's about patch currency and about change management and about being able to increase remediation agility, as I like to say. I see this as this is just showing that that's impossible. Let's use the word impossible. And that you can't, and you need to stop banking on patching. That's like the most inane thing to me, where someone's going to find an RCE and you're going to win by patching. Because by the way, if we get 20,000 of these things next week, you got to think 8,000 of them someone knew, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that are in the business of keeping it a secret when they find a problem like this. And so It's been cool for us to run with 8,000 problems as long as when it goes in the news we patch fast. That mindset is based on plausible deniability. I'm a CISO and I just want to be able to prove it wasn't my fault. That's if you actually, though, want to not have an exploit and care about the business, that's not good enough. So I think what you need to do is say, and have needed to say the whole time, is we need to be able to have an RCE in a web-facing component and survive that. And because even after the 20,000 come, there's going to be 20,000 more that you don't know about. And to just be better at patching, it's just missing the whole boat here. So like something like the egress filtering, meaning if you have remote code executed and it does a call out that you kill the call out, man, that's like board level, somebody give this person a raise. Like that's how you need to be living, because there are things that we'll be trying to call out that you won't discover. And now this is the opportunity to say, we got to be able to run dirty. We got to be able to have exploitable code in production, and everyone needs to get over themselves. And yes, CISO, you still have to protect the org. Well, it's impossible then. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Some people can do it. That's the job.
But Jerry, we're not talking about like Charlie Brown's buddy who's always constantly dirty and has all these like he's just messy. All right,
Big
like
pen.
I agree with you. You have to be able to react to dirty, but dirty doesn't have to be like crazy.
Is Linus
dirty.
dirty? I don't want to give him a bad
No, it
it's
wasn't
Pigpen.
Linus.
Pigpen.
Pigpen,
Yeah,
thank
there
you.
you go.
Poor Linus.
That's right. That's right. Everybody, we're dating ourselves.
Clearing his good name.
Anyway, back to dating ourselves. But I still think you got to trim down. You have to trim down. You have to remove unnecessary libraries and bloated
But
operating
look, if
systems
you go to
and
Wells Fargo
applications.
and you tell them that,
Yeah.
at best you're setting them up so that when they get owned, the CISO can say, well, look, Mario said we need to trim up, and I say we need to trim up, and we didn't trim up, and come on, guys, it's not my fault. And that's not what the board of Wells Fargo needs. They need someone to figure out how to secure the Queen Elizabeth II, not agile, couldn't update their website in 6 months if they tried.
So what you're telling me is you have a bunch of employees at Wells Fargo, 70, 100,000 employees. Some of them, you don't know what they're doing, but you're just going to accept because, the processes they have, this is to Sunil's point, some of these processes are like not worth anything. They're not worth even, they're dead, quite honestly. They're not useful. But just because you don't have visibility into it, I'm just going to do carte blanche. I think you have to trim down. Yeah,
I like architecture. I like choke points, right? So like I would say, like in the production infrastructure, all those web footprints. We needed block egress. Oh, that's going to be hard. Okay, you got the rest of the time to do it. If you take 24 months, it's going to work. Then it worked 20 years ago when you said it was too hard. It worked 18 years ago when you said it was too hard. And now we're going to have more and more. And if you knock out all 20,000 of these, the other choice is to get the whole organization nimble enough to where they can update code quickly. Not gonna happen.
But
And
you do
it's
it on
not
the front
okay.
facing. You take a risk-based approach. You boys always talk about this. And you might want to, yes, you have your choke points, but those choke points that are mostly exposed to publicly accessible traffic, you should also begin to focus on reducing unnecessary libraries, is my point.
And I say unnecessary traffic is better. I'd rather say that all of Eastern Europe can't get to my website at Wells Fargo and all my apps, right? What am I going to lose for that?
I think ultimately the point is that we want to give our stakeholders, our business partners, a menu of options. And I would say in some fashion or another, you must pick one of these. You can't pick none.
Yeah. Well, and some of them can't just be face saving, though. It can't be like, oh, you agree to commit to code agility. Everybody's going to sign up for that because they know they're going to be gone in two years anyway, and there's no way to measure it. Right? It has to be like we're gonna take some risk. We're gonna make some changes in production. We're gonna update old apps that everybody's been saying we don't have the code for. We're gonna cut off Tor from logging into public-facing sites. Like that. That's the kind of stuff that's going to move the
But
needle.
I think what you're talking about, I'm going to push back again on this. This is say, well, I'm going to cut off anybody coming from Uzbekistan. I don't have any
Well done.
customers there. Got it. Great. That's easy. That's
Let's
easy
go.
peasy. But the problem is,
Tonight.
this is where it fails, is when you actually, the attackers are not going to come from Uzbekistan. They're going to go from AWS. They're going to come from Azure. They're coming from GCP.
You're letting
They're
them
not
come
gonna
from
a
put choke
residential
point on it.
proxy.
You're
is it?
letting perfect be the enemy of good. That's the problem with people. They're like, well, I don't want to keep us from getting hacked tonight because it's not sustainable. Keep us from getting hacked tonight. If you cut off Uzbekistan and someone tries to go from there, you know what they're going to do? They can go to your competitor because they didn't cut it off yet. They're going to eat them alive, and you're going to be sitting pretty. It's dumb.
I think the attackers are smarter than that. They're not going to come from
but
Uzbekistan.
most attackers don't want to attack you. They want to attack somebody.
No,
and so they're
that's right.
opportunistic. So if you could push them on the next thing, then it frees your cycles for the motivated, targeted attackers where you have to do more sophisticated things. But narrow the attack surface, shrink it. Every chance that you get, at least
Totally.
the signal noise
I think
ratio
that
of
the
logs,
network
all that
traffic,
stuff.
choking the traffic, but also it's the same thing. You're saying narrow the attack. You also want to narrow the unnecessary applications or libraries
You're
that
right.
you're necessarily not using. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and
Right,
I would
it's
take
just hard.
one additional thing that is articulated and what I've shared with the DIE triad, which is to add more diversity to your stack. And one of the ways to do that is to I've mentioned this in the past, but it's as crazy as not using a library, but having an AI system actually recreate the library for you in its own its own variation of it. It makes it a little bit more harder to maintain, but that added diversity oftentimes can defang.
Wait. This is interesting. Can you wait? You got it. No. Go a little bit deeper on that. Go with me.
It's a question of how much of a monoculture do you want to have? Whether it used to be Windows, but now we have all these open source packages. OpenSSL is a monoculture. I'm not suggesting necessarily to go as far as rolling your own crypto, so to speak.
Come on, live a little, Sunil.
No,
but you're saying point Claude at OpenSSL and say, write me a library that does the same things.
Basically, yes.
I mean, you're right. It might not have Heartbleed. It wouldn't have Heartbleed. It also won't get upgraded tonight when the next Cypher suites are out.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
why?
Balancing act.
Yeah. But I look at the release notes and say, hey, Claude, update my version based on these release notes.
Yeah. Look at do a delta on the release.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, nature. If we look at nature as an example of what you're saying, it in some cases, I'm not saying always, but in some cases, it favors heterogeneous populations. In the event that there's disease or something specifically targeting a particular area and population. So I can see that. The problem is, though, Sunil, the more heterogeneous, the more different these codes, like Claude.
Maintainability becomes really hard.
That's exactly it. That's the problem. That's where, right.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still thinking
it goes
in
right
human.
into opportunistic
You're still
versus
thinking in
target.
human terms.
I think it
hate
goes
that.
right into that. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jerry.
But it goes back to opportunistic versus target, and if the environment is different than anything anybody's ever seen before, and they're an opportunistic attacker, they're moving on. So, that's totally true. But have you guys ever? So I'm the king of not knowing any of the product categories because I spent 25 years as a CISO without a Gartner subscription, and then later I realized that's why I didn't know what everybody was talking about. So have you heard of a category called CDR?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, destruction and recreation, I think is when you, content destruction and something.
Disarm and reassembly, I think.
Something,
Content
anyway.
So what this is, I've heard about it twice in my life. Once somebody in VC asked me to screen it like 15 years ago. And no, it was actually some execs who left my company were going to invest in the thing and ask me about it again. So I heard about it a few times. And then on the way back from RSA, I ran into a vendor who does it today, and I couldn't believe it. Only 2 times. And they basically take especially attachments, so Microsoft Word docs, and they detonate it in a sandbox and kind of imagine doing your screen capture on it, and then you create like a PDF that's the same content, but without any macros or anything, right? Really cool 20 years ago when we were getting Word viruses. Now it's just dead. And anyway, to me, that space is silly. I guess they're living on Defense Department contracts who bought it and have to keep it going forever. But that's what Sunil was just saying was open source code, content, disassembly, and reconstruction.
Yeah, essentially.
That's exactly what it is. It's CDR for
CDR for open source software, which works. I mean, it works for certain use cases. It may not work for all use cases, but nonetheless.
I mean, if you think about it, playing devil's advocate to a degree, and I like it net. But now you had an engineering org who wrote a body of code that was completely bespoke for their company. And then they had about 300 dependencies that were open source that they loaded in. And from an AppSec from an engineering perspective, you generally counted on the external dependencies being right, functional. Everyone's tried a million times. When you have a problem in logic and you're testing your app, it's always your code, right? I mean, our devs have contributed to open source, but it's usually to extend it. It's not. They've done bug fixes too, but it's edge cases, things like that. Generally, if there's a problem, it's my code. I know OpenSSL is fine. Everybody's using it. I'm not going to discover a bug. Now, I'm rewriting OpenSSL and all 300 dependencies. They should be similar, and Claude's pretty good at writing, but I can't count on this having been QA'd by 5 million other companies.
Totally.
And that would, I would be absolutely paranoid about like any bug at all. You're like, well, it could be anything because Sunil's bot just wrote the damn libraries. No one else has tested it. So all of a sudden I'm finger pointing at that again. Maybe you're going to tell me, Sunil, you're just going to have Claude troubleshooting it anyway?
No, this is a great. I think this is a great point.
Well, the question is, what guardrails or harnesses do you have for quality code? And the same quality checks that you would have, test-driven development and other harnesses to ensure that you have all the features and functions that you're supposed to be getting. You build that around whatever is being built by AI systems as well. Keep in mind, I'm probably underestimating this number right now, but 95% of code is being generated by AI today. I mean, you could
How much? How much?
At least 95% of that new code that's being generated is AI generated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where'd you hear that?
I see that.
Well, I mean,
would agree.
does that
agree
mean
with
just
that.
like getting created in IDEs across the world, or 95% of code that we are using was generated?
Oh, yeah, good question. I doubt it. I wouldn't say it's that what you're using, right? But of the code that's So I think it is absolutely a new paradigm, that one that we have to shift our thinking to. A lot of the assumptions that you're making is based on, again, human sort of capacity to do this stuff. But as we learn more and more as to how to create better code using good harnesses around the AI system, I think a lot of the questions that you're asking are going to be addressed by those harnesses.
It's interesting you say that. So my engineers are like, if they're writing more than 10% of their own code in what we're writing, I would say why. I would agree with Sunil. I mean, most of the time we're spending is building the right guardrails, making sure that you just don't take the code that spits out and you take it as the Bible. You have to create certain call outs, certain type of things that will identify potential issues where the code itself has gone awry. And that is not easy. That's where you still need these engineers who've had experience, and especially experience in enterprise, but also experience with LLMs.
Yeah, and there's a distinction that I think. So to give you a sense of where the new human skill is needed, it actually points to a difference between the terms verification and validation.
Totally.
So what's the difference between the two? Well, verification is, did it build it right? Validation is, did it build the right thing? And that second question, the validation, is not something that an AI system can really do. That's innately a human thing right now. The developer should be, did I actually direct it to build the right thing? You're going to have a whole bunch of harnesses to check to make sure that it built it right. That's something a machine can easily do.
That is so real. I mean, oh my God, that is so real.
Logic.
We hire, folks like all of you. We're hiring engineers with a lot of experience, and some engineers with a little, they're newer to the industry, and not newer as in maybe 5-6 years. But the way they approach LLMs, some of the more junior folks is they don't do this validation. You assume they don't do, we have one with authentication, and one of my more senior engineers told the more junior engineers, well, have you thought about authentication under these circumstances based on the code that the LLM is writing for you? And sure enough, it was like a deer in the headlight. The junior guy did not have the validation for that, or the plan to validate it. So Sunil's right, 100%.
So that'll be the new prompt engineering, basically, is that kind of thing. Is being an expert at the use cases for prompt engineering.
Yeah, what actually I've seen from the standpoint of the wizards, I'll call it that for a moment, wizards in the sense of guiding the engineer. Like, for example, I was using Gary Tan's from Y Combinator, his harnesses around Claude Code, and he's come up with a bunch of questions. I was going to call them prompts a moment ago, but really just kind of questions that says, hey, wait, did you really mean this, or did you mean that, right?
That's right.
And so it's fundamentally asking the question, well, you asked me to build this, and I can certainly build that and verify that I built what you asked me to do, but it's really a set of questions that validates whether or not you actually want me to build what you asked me to build. And by even just asking those questions, it forces us to reconsider and say, oh, you know what? No, actually, I meant this instead. And the outcome turns out to be something that you may have never even considered.
It's a genie in the what is it? Genie in the bottle, genie in the whatever.
It's an evil genie. Yeah. So it's helping solve the evil genie problem.
No, it's the original genie, because it was one that you would ask a question for it. Based on the original stories of the genie. Yeah, now we're getting all weird. But the genie was an evil genie, And if you didn't ask the right questions, you didn't set up the right controls and verification, he'll give you your wish, but it will not be the wish you wanted conceptually.
Right.
And
So
this
a
is
good
what's
genie will
happening
come back
right
to
now.
you. Right. So so essentially, the right type of validation checks that you can then put around these coding agents is essentially those sort of, hey, you asked for this, but did you really mean that? Because
That's
if
right,
you did,
right there.
this is what you might end up with, right?
Right there. And a lot of efforts, I know I'm getting excited on this because we work on this in the company that I'm at, is to make sure that we're actually probing the person on the other side to say, have you considered this instead? This question you've asked, but that's a little too general. Have you considered this? And that's where you're starting to see some differentiators between some of the young AI companies, I think.
Yeah. Well, we're spun up on code security here, and I think that Mythos, and particularly like the vulns that are going to come out of AI inspection of legacy long-lived code, are going to be impactful. I think at a minimum, all the people who run in circles and just do busy work whenever things happen will have a lot of busy work and a lot of circles to be running. But more specifically, I think they're going to actually have real exploits, and so that Sisyphean task is going to be called out. And I think people who really want to survive this are going to have to figure out how to pick their battles and live with a bunch of unpatched code. And by the way, this is the time to fight the regulators on vulnerability scanning laptops, for example. Like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. Because if you're going to pick up libraries on laptops all the time and you're going to throw that in a population with production internet-facing servers and you're going to patch all 600,000, you're going to fail. Like, so this is the chance to say, like, look, perfect can't be the enemy of good at regulators. You too, you want to. So we'll see. But let's talk about Team PCP and supply chain attacks. Man, maybe this is going to get washed out when the Mythos fallout drops and we won't have to care about this or think about it anymore. But public repo maintainers are getting targeted like crazy, directly, socially engineered, with malicious updates published on their behalf. When I see this, I think the only detection we've really had is either the maintainer who's socially engineered notices contributions they didn't really make, and they go, whoa, everybody who's downloaded this, stop. We just pulled a package. I don't know what the hell happened. Or someone running the code goes, wow, my computer's running really slow. And you find some vibe-coded exploit that's, just super inefficient, and then that's how it all comes out. Makes me wonder about the other 99% of issues like this that we're not discovering because neither of those cases are met.
Exactly. I mean, if going back to the XC, I mentioned that earlier. Remember how that was discovered? Some guy noticed that his SSH connection took like 150 milliseconds longer.
God bless his soul. God
He started looking.
So cool.
I'm like, my goodness. Like, who cares except this one person who just dug into it? And
I have friends who are like that. God bless.
You better hope they're running the same libraries as you because you're banking on them.
And the XC vulnerability would have been significant if it had been, if it got pushed out to every Red Hat server that's out there. So it was it was a dodged bullet, but at the same time, I think to your point, we discovered it. Whew. But boy, will there be a lot of other ones that are going to be a lot more subtle, or not? Actually, not that one was already subtle, but the Axios vulnerability or these packages getting taken over, and people inserting code that is going to be hard to discern that there's a backdoor or something like that. That it's going to happen in a way that we're not going to so easily be able to detect, and the opportunities seem to be quite abundant for the North Koreans and others who've entrenched themselves in this ecosystem.
Wow, you think it's going to be harder? Yeah, okay, so I'm a simpleton. Just shows you how simple I am. I recognize that it'd be hard to pick some of these codes at the speed that they're creating, but I always felt that there would be something coming in or something coming out that was different or something that was unusual. no matter what these guys try to do, there's always something, a connection inbound and a connection outbound that's a little bit different. And that's always guided me. Am I thinking it too simply, Sunil?
So the XE
I
vulnerability
already said
was
simpleton. I said simpleton. I already preface as a simpleton here. Go ahead.
yeah. So like Stuxnet gave people a whole new template for how you create an attack, a multi-stage attack. XZ wasn't one of those as well. It was a multi-stage attack where the payload was, if I recall, a PNG file.
Yep.
An image file. So how do you scan an image file for a command that generates an outbound connection? And you can't, right? Or rather, that's not something that one would consider. But yet that was essentially the sort of path that they took, if I recall. So anyway, the cleverness, never underestimate the cleverness of somebody who really is motivated.
But you're saying, wait a minute. So I get my code is going to say I'm going to go connect, and I'm going to need to download PDF files or image files. Okay, that's just it. I'm going to have to do that. Okay, so that's not changing. What's changing is now I'm either compromised where you're going to go get that, image, or I'm including a new set of images that I want you to go and graph for me. Wow. Wouldn't that be a signal in that in itself?
So if I remember right, and I'll wrap an answer to your question there, Mario, but first of all, the exploits, so you can backdoor an NPM package and put whatever code you want in there. The exploits that we've seen, Team PCP, to my recollection, were targeted towards the notion that someone is going to run that on their laptop, like a user environment, not a production environment, because it was doing things like harvesting credentials and keys that are just like a hodgepodge of what people had for their human access.
Totally.
And then before that, it was looking for crypto wallets, right? So what production infrastructure is going to have crypto wallets laying around? And it makes sense because you're going to get immediate download of the malicious version and execution from humans and developers right now. Hopefully there's better change control in prod, or it's pinned and they're not going to get the version until everybody's figured out this happened, so it's harder to hit prod. So as far as call out to stuff like that, this is the end user game. And I think the answer there isn't to avoid this from happening, but to stop having access to production credentials all over developer laptops. We got to fix that sooner or later because you got to ride dirty. It's something that end users are using to do awful, stupid things that we do on laptops. So don't get surprised. If there's bad code running there, it shouldn't be that impactful. Remember 20 years ago when PwC was marching in about developers can't have access to prod, and we all swore it wasn't happening. And now we are upset when developers' boxes are popped. That said, the ones that we're hearing about, think about the objectives of the adversaries here. The first time it was to get some crypto, right? And then later on it was to get credentials, which were used to. So the way this is playing out with Team PCP is they're getting creds for things like S3 buckets. They're pulling through them. If there's sensitive data, they're figuring out whose it is, and then they're extorting them. So it's criminals. It's let's get quick crypto, or let's be able to find extortion victims. And it's not ransomware deployment. It's get to the actual data because it's over permission and the keys are on the laptop, and then say, hey, we got your data here. Those are two kind of low-grade opportunistic attack paths where you're willing to just hit the laptop. But you have access to libraries that are going to also be built into production applications. So if you're a more sophisticated actor, if you're targeting Cloudflare, I was about to say Snowflake, but that's too close to home, but they're perfect for this thing. If you actually are worried you want to get into data, or like Department of Defense or that kind of thing, you're not writing something that's going to search the hard drive, right? You're going to write something that has a trigger on it, and then for remote code execution. And then later you're going to trigger that via some web inject, and the code's going to run what you want. And then, to your point, Mario, back to what I was screaming about, hopefully your egress protection kills it. Right? It's never ending. There's going to be unauthorized code running your production environments. Get over it and win the game anyway.
So it sounds like what both of you are saying. I mean, if I put some way to consume this information is to say people are going to do stupid. You're just never going to be able to stop doing stupid. You just got to make sure that whatever stupid they do doesn't impact the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Production, for an example. I mean, that sounds like that's the strategy we're talking about here.
Well, that's the assume breach mindset that I think we've hopefully embraced, but haven't really fully implemented.
Some would call it zero trust. Defense in depth. Like, we keep on saying the same thing, and yet we're like, well, we're going to patch even faster. That's what I think. So this Team PCP thing, I don't know. If we drop a bunch of CVs tomorrow from Mythos and all hell breaks loose, I think people will kind of forget about the backdooring of public repos for a little bit. Plus, Sunil's going to save us with a CDR, with the content disarm and reassembly on these repos, right? And in your prompt, you're going to say, and please exclude any malicious backdoors. Actually, that's going to be funny. When your code goes and grabs this backdoored software, it's going to preserve the backdoor because it's part of the functionality. It's going to find the backdoor.
Oh, well, no, not necessarily, because I'm asking for the. I use the existing code as a template, but really I'm asking for the functionality out of that. And if that functionality includes, for example, in the README, oh, here's a backdoor. Well, yeah. But if it's embedded in the code and it's not something that is evident in the plans or the design, then of course it's not going to include it.
So I would argue that 99% of developers who have included OpenSSL would be incapable of articulating the functionality they're pulling out of there in a way that's exclusive of backdoor code. Right? But by the time you're really specifying exactly what functions you're getting, then you probably wrote it anyway. You probably just can write it. I mean, not the cipher suites, not the crypto part of it, but just like the validation subroutines and the things like that in OpenSSL.
So wait, are you both saying that our philosophy should be use with caution now for every public repo? I mean, what should be our philosophy? Or are you going to say, well, that's always been the case? What are you talking about? I mean, that's what we're saying here.
Well, at some level, the difference is just becomes token cost. Are you willing to spend additional tokens to have it recreate some of these libraries for you, where you only need the specific function that you want out of Open? I don't need the entirety of OpenSSL. I just need some set of functions. Now, I think the question that you were posing, Jerry, was, would your off-the-street developer know which functions to actually pull down? And the answer is no. I wouldn't expect any developer to have that sort of awareness across all the different open source packages that they may be using. But I would expect an AI system to do that.
Yeah.
So GitHub staff celebrated last year when their total commits hit, I'm reading this, 1 billion for the first time. And apparently this year alone, there are 275 million commits per week. Do the numbers.
Yeah, that backs up. Yeah, Sunil's data.
I think I just tread carefully. Pray.
I think it's great because in many ways we're looking at this massive diversity of software that's being generated by machines. And from an attacker standpoint, if we take advantage of that diversity, it just becomes extremely hard for a developer to be able to compromise at scale.
Attacker, you mean, not the developer, the attacker.
Attacker to compromise at scale. Yeah. Now you have to be targeted. Everyone has to be targeted, which to me, is great. And all the folks who don't have that diversity, those monocultures, the Irish potato famine is going to happen to them.
But they're still going to go after the picks, man, and the shovels. They're going to still, the attackers are going to be opportunistic. You're going to go after the builders of these, picks and shovels. They're going to target them because everybody's using them to then build custom cut whatever library you're doing. Yeah. So Anthropic, OpenAI, keep hiring some security people.
Good stuff. Changing gears, so we aren't talking about code the whole time, or maybe we're going to go there with this anyway. One thing we haven't talked about yet that everybody can't wait for is Delve, right? And this is not Anthony Johnson's company, Delve Risk. If you guys know Anthony, I just pinged him. I mean, poor guy named his company Delve Risk. And it's not this company. And I just wrote him the other day. I can't wait to hear from him. I can't wait to hear your stories about what he's got. But this is Delve. What do they call it? Delve. It's the compliance platform, the SOC 2 and all. I don't know if it's Delve Security, Delve Risk, Delve Compliance, whatever. But man, to catch everybody up on this, there's this takedown saying that they've been issuing fraudulent SOC 2 reports and not really doing much and putting in fake data for people to just pass with flying colors and rubber stamp the reports. And it has, however, instead of blowing over like a lot of these things, now like their investors are removing all reference to them. Y Combinator publicly said, these guys we don't know these dudes anymore. They're out of here. I assume this company won't be, I don't know that for a fact, but it's on the trajectory to insolvency more than anything I've seen for a security issue.
Okay, can you, I know you gave a little brief of a background, maybe go a little bit deeper, please, so people can, on this whole story.
I will. So like the initial allegations were that a unprotected spreadsheet was discovered in the wild, and it talked about a bunch of Delve customers, and it had links to their SOC 2 reports. And at quick read, and maybe this is all there was out there, it was basically trying to say, like, look, all these SOC 2 reports are 80, 90% the same except for little changes. At that point, I said, yeah, so are Deloitte's. Like, everybody uses templates. That's stupid. Like, we can all say control statements out loud, like, management response, any exceptions, no exceptions noted, tested a population of the, we know that. And if they aren't doing that, they're stupid, right? Of course they should use templates. So I thought it was overblown at that point, and I felt for Delve. Then it came out that a lot of the, not a lot, but even the, and I've used compliance platforms that are evidentiary, and the way it works these days, right, and you guys have too, is it asks you a question, do you have a policy on blah, 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 and if so, you upload it. And then the auditor will come look at it. But especially for startups, 90% of the time it's, no, I don't. Well, here's the easy button. Click here and we'll create a policy for you. And they give everybody the same template, and then you approve the policy, and now that's your policy, and now you have one. Yay, they helped you out, value add. And then the auditor's reviewing that. That is still the state of play with Vanta, Drata, SecureFrame, all of them. I don't love it because I think that the policies that they give you to fit one size fits all have to be so comprehensive that they're probably committing you to stuff you don't really do. So you're gonna, but they still preserve the ability for the auditor then see whether or not you're following the policy. So they're not doing anything wrong there. And if you download a policy that's too strict and then you comply with it, you'll get burned in the audit. So they're still self-policing.
Shame on you if you didn't review it and trim it to your.
And you didn't. I mean, the shame is
shame
what?
on you. That's right.
The world is run by companies that are running on policies they have not read. Like, sorry, this is the fact, and this is life. But the accusations with Delve are that, in addition, they manufactured the evidence of compliance. And the primary example they gave was they would say, like, oh, do you have governance or not around cybersecurity? And everyone would say, oh, no. Well, click here to download a charter for a governance committee. Okay, that's about the state of health where we are now. And then it would say, show evidence that you actually met quarterly. And then where it went south, you might argue, was that Delve would also supposedly produce fake board meeting minutes. That was the big accusation, like fake minutes saying that Mario's committee met in June and here, and said everything was good with security or whatever. And that's like, I don't think anyone can argue for that and say that's okay. That was where it went really bad.
Who in their right mind in that leadership team? I mean, guys, that's fabricating evidence, man. Come on. Okay, am I smoking?
Bang on.
Funny
that's
stuff.
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
Right.
So
I mean,
that's where things got crazy.
Like, imagine the executive. Oh yes, I have a new way. Or product manager for Delve. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Delve. Everybody's going to poop on you.
Yeah, actually, so I wonder actually how much the customers were actually aware of what was of the actual fabrications. They may be, some of them may have been aware, but others they're kind of just trusting the process, right? Mm-hmm. And the process involves having an independent auditor to double check that these things are actually the way that they're supposed to be, right? And I think part of the issue that, if I recall, with Delve was that Delve not only helped in getting them the SOC 2 prepared, but was also in some ways or another like their auditor, or they served as the auditing function as well. or at least they were in bed in such a way that there was really no separation between those who helped them get ready and the actual assessment itself.
So Neil,
so,
I need the clown like with a broom, like just sweeping your statement, man. I cannot believe you're giving them enough. You're giving those customers like I did not know that they didn't have that evidence. That's what you're telling me right now.
Well, again, I don't know the full story. What I know is what, of course, what was posted in the whistleblower accounts. But there is a degree to which management is expecting a process to be followed. Okay, and that process does involve that independent assessment. I'm trying to recollect the specifics of it, but I recall something about the independence not really actually being there, and because the independence wasn't there, they were able to do these shenanigans. So now imagine you're management and you contract out with Delve to help you get a SOC 2. And they'd say, hey, you know what? We will take care of the entire process for you. You don't have to worry about it. We'll get the independent auditor. We'll blah, 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 blah. Okay. And you're like, okay, great. Go. Right. And they go about doing it, and voila, here's your SOC 2. And you're like, wow, great. That was painless. Without really realizing what was happening behind the scenes that leaves you exposed. That's how I think about it.
So I have a home. I need to get insurance, fire insurance for my home. And as part of my fire insurance, I know that I'm being mandated to have fire alarms in my house that are working, right? Mm-hmm. And but the person who came in and did the audit of your company of your house, they said, yeah, you have fire detectors everywhere. When you fully know that you don't have them.
Right. No, but that's not what's being asked. You know that you're being asked to have a fire alarm inside the house. Okay, but that's like imagine that as like a 1.2.3 type of requirement.
A monitoring.
What
you have
at a management level
enabled.
Is you need to have a management. You need to have a security program. Do you have a security program? That's the kind of level that most people are going to be operating at when they engage with a company like Delve. We in security know, well, you actually need to have all these other sort of things, which we happen to have insight on because we're in security. But for those who are just saying, look, my customers are asking me to get a SOC 2, how do I do that as quickly as possible? And Delve raised the flag saying, hey, you can get it from us for, this amount of price and this amount of weeks. Like, okay, great, sign me up. And you're assuming that they're going to follow a certain process that is audited, right? And you don't actually get that. There's a whole bunch of concerns we also have about SOC 2 itself. I mean, I think we in the industry know.
I think it's super important.
What, having a SOC 2?
No. I think that point is what's really material here. That I've been biting my tongue, waiting to jump in on. So we went through with, I don't know, we dodged a bullet not using Delve. Okay, so could have, right? And we went through a low-cost SOC 2 evidentiary platform, and we were very lucky, and it's similar to what you were talking about, Sunil, in that we were in the business of making documentation, all that. So when it said, you want to upload your template, or you want to upload your template, instead of saying we don't have one, we actually did have one in many cases. Yeah. And we were super keen to run it through SOC 2 so that we could tell customers that if you use our platform, it'll pass SOC 2. So we were lucky in that regard. The auditor that came in and looked at ours was one of the ones that also worked with Delve. So I thought about whether or not, because they have to be AICPA, right, to be an auditor here, so they have to be U.S. based. And so there was an address that was in the U.S. and in California and all that, but I just thought you're paying for it through one fee. So they're saying, well, it's independent, but we're rerouting some of the fee, and that's what Delve also does. So that's part of the new cottage industry. And that makes it extraordinarily less expensive. But I think for the average company, like back to the plausible deniability and to the metaphor with the fire stuff. So if you live in a home that has open gas and you smell gas a lot of times and you narrowly avoid a fire, you know that all the windows are locked and there's no way to escape, and you've been wondering about it too, and like, oh man, I got to do something about this. I don't feel good, but hopefully there just won't be a fire. And the fire alarms none of them work. You have a little gas oil fire on the stove one day, and you put it out. And you think, man, none of the fire alarms went off. then when you brought a third party in to get fire certification, you'd expect some, look, you're going to have to fix some things before we can do this. And if they came through and say, hey, we got it, but lowest insurance rates ever, you'd have some suspicion, which I think what you're getting at, Mario, like, didn't you know? But to Sunil's point, like for most companies, that's not there. And I say it's because the SOC 2 is so ridiculous and idiotic that, so what people are worried about, the reason we do TPRM, and I'm mentioning this, I'm not pointing out the obvious, with their vendors, is they want their vendors to not get hacked and lead to them getting hacked. This is breaking news. No one's aware of this. This is what TPRM is for. They want their vendors to not get hacked. The SOC 2 is asking if you have a workforce plan for your headcount for the next 12 months. What the hell does that have to do with you not getting hacked? It's so far apart. So if somebody shovels together for you, Mario, and for Whirl, a headcount plan, no harm. Who cares? They're fabricating evidence. Whether you have one or not isn't going to lead to getting hacked. You're not going to spot the, oh, our place is about to burn down. We know fire detectors. So there's this huge cognitive dissonance because the program.
No, maybe there's not a Jerry. No. I think you're bringing an interesting argument, and I think what Sunil said earlier too. Maybe they're all connected. Is that there's no cognitive dissonance. I think we understand that SOC reports are worthless. I think the whole industry understands that and says, so effing what if they fabricate evidence? This is garbage. This has nothing to do with the level of security and how
you think Team PCP is intimidated by your meeting minutes?
Yeah. So I think it says more Delve. Maybe we're poo-pooing on the wrong thing. It's not Delve that's a problem. It's the actual whole culture of the SOC 2 and us embracing the SOC 2 as being
both. Yeah.
Okay.
Both. But
now maybe
Delve.
I believe you guys.
But Delve
was
is
definitely
whatever.
committing fraud.
Who cares about that? But whether or not Delve got away with it isn't really going to move the needle on security for the world. The SOC 2, problem, the SOC 2 toxicity is a problem that needs to be solved.
It just really made it very clear that the emperor has no clothes when it comes to SOC 2. The fact that Delve in committing fraud just makes that much more evident. But I think all those who've been who've gone through this experience knows that SOC 2 itself really is meaningless in terms of really telling you whether or not your vendors can get hacked.
I think that's right. All right. Well, before we wrap up, there's so many things that are like, what's going to happen this year right now? Any predictions about any of the topics that we talked about and things that'll happen before the next episode? Are we going to see a bunch of CVs drop already?
Give it another couple more weeks.
Not by the next episode. Is it going to dramatically impact the market? So when that happened, for some reason, all the CDNs, Akamai, Fastly, and Cloudflare, took like a 20% stock dive, billions of dollars over a 5-day period or less.
Is that true?
5 day?
Or are you predicting this?
No, it happened. I don't know what the correlation is. Are we going to, why did that happen? Are we going to see more of this? Is the market going to be roiled over because of these AI generated security implications, whether they're founded or not?
I think what's going to move the market is when the Strait of America gets opened up again.
We didn't have a chance to talk about that, did we?
My ask is, what is the likelihood that the Tenables and Orcas and Wizzes of the world, their sales team, send an email to the other customers saying, "Look at this problem with AI and all these vulnerabilities. We got you. We have the solution for you."
Yeah. That's a no-brainer for sure. All right, guys. Well, this was good fun as always. Man, we these things, we're going to have a lot to talk about. I can't wait to get back on the next time, and I hope it's really boring and nothing has happened. All right, Godspeed, guys.
Thanks. Cheers.
Bye-bye.